Are you going to eliminate the filibuster?
Well, I would carve out for those two things. Yes, I think when the country is faced with a national emergency, and I think we're faced with a national emergency, they've carved out the filibuster for judicial nominations.
But isn't that carving out the filibuster just for political reasons? So make carve-outs to help Democrats win?
Why does the Senate do anything other than political reasons?
Welcome back. You just heard my interview with Democratic strategist James Carville, where he laid out his vision for the future of his party. Here to help with all of that, host of the Clay and Buck Show, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. I mean, Buck, he laid it out. They're packing the Supreme Court, D.C.'s a state, Puerto Rico's a state, get rid of the filibuster, but only for political purposes for Democrats.
Well, yeah, good to see you, Kayleigh. They have to win first, and I think that's certainly going to be a challenge for them in the presidential election cycle, given the bench that they have, or the lack of a bench, which is quite apparent. But even in the midterms, they're going to have to convince the American people that all the things that Democrats day in and day out are fired up about, talking about the preposterous No Kings protest, wanting to make sure that all of the illegal alien criminals can stay in this country, the things that really motivate them, having men play in women's sports. They're going to try to abandon all of that in the 6 months leading up to the midterms and convince Americans they actually care about affordability. They actually care about the price of gas and food and things like that. Now, maybe they'll be successful, but that's only possible if they're able to make sure that people can't remember what the Democrat Party is really all about. So I think James Carville is interesting because he's really a throwback to a different Democrat Party. I think the wokeness is not gone, and I think their best chance is to try to hide the reality of what they really are.
Yeah, Clay, it's interesting watching him grapple with that question of socialism. He's like, maybe we just come out overtly against, this trans issue like Newsom did. And then when you ask him to name who the person is, he says everybody should run. But I noticed he snuck the name Newsom in there as he was saying everyone should run.
Yeah, look, I mean, James Carville is actually, Kayleigh, an old school Democrat, as Buck just said, in that he actually is a normal dude that you might want to have a beer with and watch a football game with. And there are almost none of those guys left in the Democrat Party right now. It's basically become a party for angry white women with no kids. And that's the base of the party. And I think deep down, James Carville hates that. I think he knows that in order to win elections, you have to be somewhat normal, and the men of the Democrat Party are not normal, and the women certainly aren't. And I think that's why they're in a tough spot. Now, to Buck's point, Gavin Newsom is an adroit liar. He's going to try to pretend that he is a normal guy. Maybe Governor Wes Moore of Maryland can make that run. J.B. Pritzker has no chance. I mean, when Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are the front-facing men of the Democrat Party, the biggest issue Democrats have is they just don't have any normal dudes. And as a result, this election is going to be very, very hard for them to win in 2028, because I noticed that he tried to hem and haw when you asked him, Kayleigh, about the potential of J.D. Vance being the next guy up. J.D. Vance is super normal. So is Marco Rubio. And deep down, James Carville knows that. And I think it's got him a bit shook, to be honest, Kayleigh.
I think you're 100% spot on that, because I know Trump loves J.D. Vance, loves Marco Rubio, too. They do have one normal guy. His name's John Fetterman. Here's what he said about Fetterman.
If John Fetterman is the smartest person in the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party is in really, really, really deep trouble.
Buck, I don't get it.
Well, yeah, Fetterman has shown a lot more wisdom on a whole range of issues than the Democrats overall, particularly in the Senate, have, and including on the recent shutdown, which was a tactical disaster for Democrats. I think it showed the American people that they don't actually have any real agenda to run on or to push other than sabotage and obstruction right now. And they're willing to make people suffer so that they can throw a tantrum. Fetterman was saying, look, guys, there's better ways to do this. Now, there are areas where obviously we don't agree with John Fetterman, and there are places where we strenuously disagree with him. But I would say this, for Democrats to actually win national elections, to win a majority in the House and the Senate, they have to be more like Fetterman than they are like the governance, say, of Gavin Newsom. I mean, they can't be the hard left that is the heart and soul of their party. Like I said before, and Clay was reiterating as well, they have to essentially fool people and pretend that they believe things that they don't when it comes to people actually voting. And that is the big game. That was certainly the game of the Biden administration, who really ran a far-left administration, even though he was blue-collar Joe riding the choo-choo into D.C. from Scranton or from Delaware or wherever. It was all nonsense and it was all a lie. So I think that the Democrats are now going to be running a campaign of, we don't really stand for the things that our base cares about. The base knows that that's a lie, so they'll be okay with it. And then they just try to get through the elections and figure out how they can repair the party damage later on.
Yeah, and I have a few moments here, but I can't leave this segment without notes from Mike McEnany, my father, who watches Clay and Buck, listens to you guys religiously. Clay, apparently Buck is on Buck Island. He said Biden would run for a second term. He did not, so Buck is on an island to his own. My dad said Buck is always losing, and one day, Clay, you are going to have to cut his steak into tiny little pieces and put a bib on Buck, because he's eventually going to get a bet right, Clay.
Wait, hold on a second, Kaylee. The bet was that he was going to run. He did run, and then he bailed. I'm sorry. This rapscallion on the other side of the screen has gotten one big bet right. Tell her about the serve, Clay. 103 miles an hour, I will have you know, on the tennis court.
Clay.
We do have a lot of fun on the show. And as your dad correctly notes, I tend to be right about everything. And so he has great taste. Good luck to Mississippi State today. And if you're not listening to Clay and Buck, you should join Kaylee's fantastic dad and realize that there's a great media environment out there for you from 12 to 3 on radio, basically everywhere in the country. And yeah, look, that steak was delectable that I won because of Biden.
Well, when you come back, Clay Travis.
Real quick, Kaylee, can I just tell you the next big bet is I say Kamala's not even going to run because she's such a disaster. Clay says she is going to run. We got a stake bet on that one, so we'll see. Put a marker down here in front of America. I think Clay's right on that one. And, Buck, when you come back, I'm going to tell you about what I caught Clay drinking. Whispering Angel, a women's rosé. I caught him drinking at the Patriot Awards. More on that next time.
There wasn't a great collection of alcohol at the table, in my defense.
A Whispering Angel for Clay Travis. Thank you, guys.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.